Sometimes I get so wrapped up in trying to cover what happens on a daily basis in the NHL that I just kind of neglect these other fun videos I want to make. Like, you guys know I've made some ranking videos in the past of arenas. I did one for every Winter Classic stadium, the dressing room one. Like, I want to make more of those. I want to rank all the jerseys in the league because I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a big jersey guy. I love them. So going forward, especially this upcoming year, I want to make sure I put in the effort to make these more fun videos, mix them in. They do take quite a bit longer to make, so if you do appreciate these types of videos, make sure you let me know by liking the video. And today, oh boy. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some unpopular choices in here, but hey, this is a really fun one that I'm excited to make, choosing a different captain for each NHL team. Some of these were really tough, but it was fun to do. And some of them where I felt like it was a cop-out or too obvious of a choice, I made sure to give an alternative. And let me know your choices in the comments down below. And with all that said, let's get into it. For Anaheim, I'm going with Mason McTavish, starting this thing off hot right away. Now, I easily could have gone with one of the vets like Adam Henrique or Cam Fowler in this spot, but I really feel like McTavish has taken control of this team and he exudes that leadership energy that you need. And he's young. He's going to be there for years to come. The leadership he showed at the World Juniors as he captained Canada to gold, to me, that was like, okay, if this kid can become an effective NHLer going forward on both sides of the puck, he'd bang for a great captain. And I really think he's solidified that with how he's played this season. In Arizona, it's Clayton Keller. I know there were some trade rumors floating around there when there was rumors of relocation for the Coyotes, but since then, it really seems to have settled down, and it really looks like Clayton Keller is there to stay. He wears an A, which I know isn't always important when choosing who the next captain's going to be, but it does show that he has some leadership skills, and he's part of the leadership group already. He's one of the most skilled Coyotes ever, if not the most. I mean, I know there was some guys like Keith Tkachuk, Jeremy Roenick, Shane Doan, but Keller pretty much is the face of the franchise. And look, he's been underrated for a long time because he plays in that market. It is interesting to me that they haven't slapped it on him already because he's locked up for many years to come, and he'd be my clear choice if I was making that decision, but there's a reason I'm talking in front of a microphone, and André Tourigny is the coach of the Arizona Coyotes. So maybe he'll go in a different direction, but Keller'd be my pick. In Boston, we get to our first tough decision. I chose Charlie McAvoy, but man, did I really ponder about David Pastrnak for a while. I settled on McAvoy because, look, Pastrnak is very charismatic, and obviously he's close with tons of guys around that room. He is a glue guy as well as being the best goal scorer on the team. But McAvoy's just Mr. Everything back there, man. He's just so important to that team. And even though Pastrnak is more boisterous and outspoken, I don't think that that's always the best tell of who a better captain would be. McAvoy would be my guy if I was the coach. I'd point at him and say, hey, if you want to learn how to be a good pro, look at 73. He leads by example. Follow that. Buffalo's very interesting. I easily could have gone with somebody like, Dylan Cousins or Rasmus Dahlin in this spot, but I'm going to go with Alex Tuch. He's from the area, grew up a Sabres fan, and he plays like it. He leaves it all out there. You can tell that he's so proud to wear that logo on his chest. I think he's even talked about it in interviews before. More of a veteran choice, but I think that somebody like that who's so proud to be a Sabre, has lots of experience in the league with good teams who had to persevere. Also, the dude looks like he's in his mid-30s, but he's only 27. He could be the captain for years to come. Next up, we got the Calgary Flames, and this one I actually struggled with quite a bit. I was tossed up between three guys: Blake Coleman, Rasmus Andersson, and Mackenzie Weegar. If you're a Flames fan, I'm sure you heard it swirling around that if it wasn't going to be Michael Backlund, Rasmus Andersson was most likely going to be named captain. And he'd be a solid choice. He's locked in long term. He's one of, if not their top defenseman. He's been there for a long time. He got to learn from great leaders like Mark Giordano. And whenever there's a tough loss or, it's not an easy day to speak to the media, I seem to almost always see Rasmus come out and face the music. But for me personally, what I've seen Mackenzie Weegar do in the short time he's been a Flame, he hasn't even been here for 2 years yet, he would be my personal choice as the next captain. Now, realistically, I do think Anderson would get it over Weegar, but Weegar would just be my choice because sometimes Anderson does some stuff where I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like that line A play earlier this season, like that was just embarrassing, and that's not something a captain should be doing, especially in the dying seconds of a game like that. In Carolina, I had a tough time between Jacob Slavin and Sebastian Aho. Because, let's be real. The actual captain in Carolina, it's Rod Brind'Amour. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's like that with every coach. They have the authority. And you're absolutely right. It's just that I don't know how to explain it. In Carolina, it just feels different with Brind'Amour behind the bench. But if I had to pick right now, I would do Jacob Slavin. He's just such a rock back there. And everything I've seen from him, he also seems to exude leadership qualities. He'd be my pick. Oh, this one's juicy. In Chicago, look, most likely Connor Bedard is going to have the C on his jersey, maybe even as soon as next year if they want to follow the McDavid model. But I feel like that's too obvious, so for me, plan B would be Nick Foligno. I love this guy, and you can see why he turns into a leader on basically every team he joins. I think he was a great captain in Columbus for so many years. He got an A on his sweater in Chicago like almost instantly. He just seems like a true leader, and honestly, I wouldn't mind if Chicago went down this road. Think of a team like Florida when Derek McKenzie was named the captain. I personally believe at that point they knew that Barkov was their guy and he was going to be the captain, but they wanted to give him a little bit more time to learn and grow in the league, so they put it on McKenzie. And honestly, I think that would be pretty good in Chicago. I think that would definitely work, and you would take some pressure off of Bedard. I wouldn't mind it at all. Even if Foligno was captain only for a year, I think it would help a lot with Bedard's development. In Colorado, the two choices are obvious. I think McKinnon is the number one clear choice, and for whatever reason, if it wasn't going to be McKinnon, Makar would most likely have the C on his jersey. Sorry, Rantanen. In Columbus, it's juicy. Some people might be thinking Johnny Gaudreau just because he's like the biggest star player, or was at least, coming into this season. And other people might even be thinking Adam Fantilli with the way he's jumped on the scene here, and I wouldn't blame you at all. I mean, he's burst down the door here, and he looks awesome in Columbus. Not just on the ice, but the way he conducts himself off the ice and in the media. He's got that captain energy, but I still think if I had to pick it tomorrow, it'd be Zach Werenski. I know he's had a ton of injury problems in the past here, but if he can manage to stay healthy, I think that that's a relatively obvious choice for Columbus. Dallas is definitely one of the toughest ones on this list. I just don't know how many captain vibes I get from guys like Jason Robertson or even Miro Heiskanen. I get more captain vibes from Jake Ottinger than I do those two guys. But you can't name a goalie captain. Dude, whoever named Luongo the captain, you are my hero. Joe Pavelski seems like such a good leader, man. I'm so tempted to pick him, but he's 39 years old, and he's got 1 year left on his deal, being this one. I don't know how you can put a C on a guy in that type of situation. If it was Roope Hintz, I think that would end up being one of the quietest captains in the whole league. And even with the massive decline he's undergone over the past few years, I did consider Tyler Seguin for this, but I can't do it, man. There's been too much around there, and it's one of the uglier contracts in the whole league, even though he does have all that experience in Dallas. I'd have to go with Robertson. In Detroit, it's kind of crazy because he just got there, but we've seen much crazier things happen in the NHL. Alex DeBrincat, a Michigander, came home and signed long-term to play with the Red Wings. Has absolutely lit it up ever since the first game he put the sweater on. Not to mention, he was a huge part in recruiting one of the best American-born NHL players ever to come play for the Red Wings. No, not him. Patrick Kane. I don't think it'll be long before DeBrincat has an A on his sweater, and look, Dylan Larkin's going to be there for a long time, but for whatever reason, if he wasn't, I think DeBrincat is the clear best choice here. Edmonton is quite possibly the juiciest choice on this entire list, because I'm going to assume if McDavid is not there, neither is Draisaitl, because in a scenario where McDavid left and for some reason Draisaitl decided, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to be the guy and represent the Oilers and be loyal to this franchise and fan base, I think absolutely he would get the C. But if both of them decided to leave, then it's an interesting discussion. A lot of people are going to say RNH here, and I totally get that. He signed long-term to stay with the team. He loves the city, has loved the franchise, and has been through some really tough times there, and has really blossomed into a great leader, I think, for that franchise. I'd go with Zach Hyman, though. This guy's an absolute dog on a bone. He seems to always have a smile on his face, and when he doesn't, it's because he's working his tail off. Great in the media, great in the community. I think, for me, it would be Zach Hyman. For Florida, come on, do I even need to say it? I'm not even going to say it. You know who the next captain of the Florida Panthers would be. It's so obvious that I can't even think of a backup. Like, if he wasn't there, who would be named the captain of the team? Like, I don't know, Aaron Ekblad or something? I have no idea. In LA, Drew Doughty, yes, but keep an eye on that Quentin Byfield kid. What I've seen from him this year, that's somebody to watch in the future. Could be wearing the C for the Kings. In Minnesota, I think it'd be Marcus Foligno. He just got re-signed to a relatively long-term contract. As you can tell, I, as well as much of the NHL, thinks that the Foligno brothers are really good leaders. This guy's a sneaky good player, and look, there's a reason Bill Guerin made a point to really want to keep this guy and keep him for a while. Not a lot of 32-year-olds in the NHL scoring 21 points the entire season, getting 4-year contract extensions with their teams. In Montreal, I think a lot of people are expecting me to say Brendan Gallagher here, and look, there was a time where I think Brendan Gallagher was a slam dunk, incredible, maybe even the best choice to be the captain in Montreal, but it just so happened that Shea Weber was there at the same time, who is a fantastic leader in his own right, and I think the Montreal Canadiens made the right choice to make Weber the captain. But that doesn't mean Gallagher wasn't ready, and I think at that time he would have made a fantastic captain. But things are different now, and if Nick Suzuki disappeared off the face of the earth tomorrow, or in a less dramatic way I'll put it, got traded or something, I think Cole Caulfield would make for a great captain in that market. I mean, you've got guys like Sean Monahan, who's been in the league 10 years, saying that he feels grateful and lucky to be Cole Caulfield's teammate with the amount of positivity and energy he brings into the room. You look at him, this kid seems to be best friends with everybody, all the time. Not to mention he's one of the best players on the team and probably one of the best goal scorers the Habs have had in a while. He does a great job speaking to the media, and he's even come out and you've seen him kind of throw around some French here and there, so I think he'd be a pretty good pick. Roman Josi is the perfect captain for the Nashville Predators, but if he wasn't there, look, I thought about Philip Forsberg quite a bit. He's been there so long, he's been such a good player. He's signed up long term. That'd be a really solid pick, but if it was me, I'd put it on Ryan O'Reilly. Another guy who got an ace slapped on his jersey pretty much the second he got there. Stanley Cup and Conn Smythe winner. I mean, he was a captain in St. Louis for a while there. By all accounts, he's a great leader and a good guy to have in the room. I'd go with him. In New Jersey, the stars are aligned. I just don't see how he would not make it Jack Hughes. I just don't. Man, the two New York teams are tough, man. On the island, even though he's relatively new, gave some strong consideration to Bo Horvat. Also gave some thought to those grinders who've been there forever. Guys like Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin, even Casey Cizikas. I know he plays up and down the lineup, but I'll throw him in that category. I would go with Matthew Barzal here, though. I really would. For the Rangers, before they picked Jacob Trouba, I really thought Chris Kreider, to me, was beyond a slam dunk obvious choice. So the fact that they didn't pick him, I'm still a little bit shocked by it, even to this day. Maybe he doesn't want to be captain, or I don't know. There's something. There's some reason he either didn't get picked to be captain or didn't want to be captain, so I'm not going to pick him either. To me, that leaves Mika Zibanejad and Adam Fox, and I'd go with Adam Fox. He's from the area. He literally bulldozed his way to New York. Like, he didn't want to play anywhere else, forced basically 2 trades to get his way to New York. One of the top defensemen in the entire world, got a Norris Trophy under his belt, right in that sweet spot for captaincy age, definitely isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He'd be my pick. In Ottawa, I'd go with Claude Giroux, already a huge leader in that room and was the captain of the Flyers for eons, so I don't know, that's who I would go with. And I know he's up there in age and isn't signed for super long term, but I think they need a bit more time, at least to see, hey, is one of either Jake Sanderson or Tim Stützle possibly ready to take on this role in the future? Or would it have to be somebody else? And that's where the 2-ish years of Claude Giroux captaincy would come in handy. In Philly, I think we should stitch a C to John Tortorella's suit jacket there, but since you can't do that, to me, Travis Konechny is the heartbeat of that team. He's who I would pick in that role, and as a backup, Scott Laughton. In Pittsburgh, same thing as Edmonton. I'm going to assume that if Crosby not there, then Malkin's not there, and you know what? I'll even say Letang isn't there. Because if either of those two guys are there, I do think they'd be named captain. Brian Rust is one of the most underrated and not talked about players in the entire league. I think this guy's been a hell of a player for years now. He does not get the credit for the type of quality player he is. He's a good player. And again, you can just bank him as a workhorse every single night. You can rely on this guy. I think as a captain, he'd be a good pick. In San Jose, the cupboards are bare, man. In reality, I think the captain's going to be somebody who hasn't even been drafted or acquired by them yet. If I had to pick today a veteran who's been a Shark for his entire career, good player, it's got to be Tomas Hertl. Seattle was tough, man. I sat and deliberated about this one for a while, and I settled on either Vince Dunn, Jared McCann, or Jaden Schwartz. I'm sure we're going to get some variants in this one, different people picking different guys, but for me, it'd be Vince Dunn. In St. Louis, I thought about guys like Kevin Hayes, for example, or even Torrey Krug, but then I was like, wait a second, didn't they try to trade Torrey Krug in the offseason? And then he was like, no, I'm not going to Philly. What the hell, guys? But I figured I had to go with one of the big guns here, either Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou, and I decided to go with Robert Thomas. Number 1 centerman, he's going to be there for years to come. If Brayden Schenn wasn't there, I think he'd be wearing the C. Tampa's super interesting, because to me there's a big 3 where it could go either way. It could be any of these 3 guys. And if Stamkos does end up hitting free agency, we're going to get to see who it's going to be. Kucherov, Point, or Hedman. Choose your fighter. I had to go with Victor Hedman on this one. Look, the other 2 I think are fantastic candidates, but Hedman's just been there for so long, and that is not always the best indicator for who to pick as your captain, but in this case, I think it really does play a big factor. The other 2 have been there for a long time too, but Hedman's been there. Dude, he got drafted in 2009. So much veteran experience and leadership. He's still one of the top defensemen in the league. You can't go wrong here between those 3 guys, but if it was me, I'd put it on Hedman. Oh boy, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, I know the rumor was that Matthews was seriously considered for the captaincy last time they were going to pick one, and then there was the whole mooning incident. but he's got to be in consideration here. He really seems to have matured since then. He definitely would be one of the strongest contenders if there was a captain vacancy tomorrow. My personal pick, though, Morgan Riley. Watching Toronto Maple Leafs media scrums is like watching a TV drama sometimes, and it's really interesting to see which guys seem to be the best equipped to handle the media. Now, I'm not saying guys like Matthews or even Marner are bad with the media, but since day one in Toronto, which, look, Riley is, I think, the longest tenured Leaf by this point. He's got to be. Since the day he got there, he's just had that it factor about him, like, this guy knows how to handle the Toronto media, the market, the heat that comes with that. Now, his play on the ice hasn't always been stellar, but he's a really good player, and last year in the playoffs, I was super impressed with how Riley stepped up and was the bona fide number one defenseman, sometimes the best player on the Leafs during that playoff run against Tampa and Florida. He's also under contract for the next 7 seasons with the Leafs, and again, he's in that sweet spot of age where he has enough experience playing in this market. He's got plenty at this point, but he's also not, going to retire next year. In Vancouver, let's slap that C on Roberto Luongo and call it a day. If you guys watched my video from last season, you know I was Team Pettersson for the captain. I just thought he would have been the better choice compared to Quinn Hughes, and I could not have been more wrong about that. Quinn Hughes has been a phenomenal captain for the Vancouver Canucks. Great choice by that whole brass. And I don't think Pettersson would be a bad captain. I wonder if that's something that he even wanted in the first place or that he'd be comfortable with. Geez, this one's tough, because again, Quinn Hughes was the perfect choice here. Maybe Brock Besser would be a decent choice here. The reason I'm on the fence about that one, though, is because he's been inconsistent over the course of his career, and last year, there were times where it didn't even look like he was going to be a Canuck next month, let alone for years to come. But he did rescind his trade request, and it does look like he's going to be there for a while. I also consider JT Miller here, but that would be a show if we've ever seen one, if JT Miller was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks. So what I'm going to say here is I would put it on Pettersson if he wanted it, and he felt like he was ready for it, but if he didn't, I'd give it to Besser. Vegas, in my mind, is between Marchessault and Pietrangelo, and here, I'd go with Jonathan Marchessault. Golden misfit, and he's represented the Golden Knights so well. Since their inception, he's just been great for that franchise, for the community as well. He's a huge fan favorite. They love him over there, and he's a big game player, as he showed before. He is a free agent after this year, but I do think Vegas is going to re-sign him, and if for whatever reason they didn't, and there was a captain vacancy, I'd put it on Pietrangelo, but I don't think Marchessault's going anywhere. All right, home stretch. Washington? I think the two rather obvious choices would be either John Carlson or Tom Wilson. I'd want to throw Dylan Strome's hat in the ring for consideration too, though. Ultimately, though, especially with the brand new contract extension he just got, I think it'll be Tom Wilson. And finally, it's the Winnipeg Jets, and for them, I gotta go with Josh Morrissey. For so many years there, if you would have asked me, I would have said, it's Scheifele. That's a slam dunk, easy. But now, even with his new long contract extension with the Jets, I still think that if Adam Lowry leaves for some reason, I'd pick Morrissey, and I think they would too. That'll do it on this one, guys. Again, if you want more videos like this, let me know by liking the video. This took a lot of time to make, but I had fun, and I want to make more of these. And I want to get your list for the captains in the comments down below, and also give me some more ideas for fun videos like this that we could do. I already have a few other ones that I want to make that honestly I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with, and you guys are going to enjoy. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.